This is Tom Doody, middle-aged American living in New Jersey near the Lincoln Tunnel. If you were to visit my website, you would type Howdy Doody into Google. You'll find the correct spelling of the famous puppet. You then combine Tom Doody in a Google search for my site. One American looks in the mirror. This is a redundant event that I do with some fresh information at the end, kind of a fresh editorial from me. I begin with the words of Markus Feldenkirchen. He is a media pro writer for, at least at the time he posted this, Spiegel.com. Spiegel.com is an offshoot of Der Spiegel, and Der Spiegel is a weekly magazine in the German language, and it's been around for about a half century, and Spiegel.com for about a decade. I was struck by this text. I read it in a format exactly the way I'm doing it today, and it did something for me, something to make me want to repeat it this summer with my schedule, and most recently in California. My cousins, I got away from it. So anyways, I return. At the end, I'll explain where I am, why, and my purpose. The words of Markus Feldenkirchen, 6/26/2015. Confronting the past, America finally turns its attention to rampant racism. The United States is dealing with injustices, excels in dealing with injustices of other countries. They often even help other countries to cope with their shameful past. Germany will always be grateful to the United States for sending American troops across the Atlantic to defeat the Nazis, and for insisting that Germans be held accountable for the crimes they committed. The Nuremberg trials gave Germany the opportunity to own up to what they had done. They could no longer deny it. The U.S. has been less successful, however, in conducting the same process when addressing the dark parts of its own past. This includes its treatment of Native Americans who were brutally repressed or even killed in order to clear the way for Western expansion. They were betrayed, neglected, or disrespected. Today, they live on reservations in some of the saddest living conditions of the civilized world. Americans seem even more forgetful when it comes to the history of blacks who were once snatched from their homes, forced into ship's galleys, and kept like animals for centuries. Even after the end of the Civil War, the official abolition of slavery, it took another 100 years before the discriminatory racial laws were officially lifted. To this day, the U.S. has never issued a formal apology nor made official attempt at redress or let alone compensation. Instead, many patterns of institutionalized racism still exist. When a clean break from the past is not made, it may be difficult for people to part with their old ways of thinking. Indeed, not only do Americans continue to hold twisted notions of superiority of whites, but these beliefs often go unchallenged. Imagine 150 years have passed since the Civil War has ended. Only now has an ethical debate gone over whether the symbols of the South are inappropriate. 9 black people had to die in Charleston, executed by a white Nazi adorned with the Confederate flag and other symbols of alleged supremacy. It seems that there was never a thought given to the fact that the South went to war with the North partly to defend their right to continue to hold blacks like animals, to put them in chains and beat them when they were down. How is it that for many politicians in the American, that the flag is now only now become a little embarrassing? Why are people only now asking whether it's really a good idea to name streets and public spaces after the greatest generals in the fight for slavery? They may have been brave soldiers, but if they were fighting for a despicable cause, they should not have monuments built in their honor unless, of course, we believe that what they stand for is really not so reprehensible. On the Mall in Washington and not somewhere in Germany, one can find one of the best, most poignant Holocaust museums in the world, yet similarly impressive museums dedicated to the history of slavery, to racist policies throughout American history, or to the treatment of Native Americans are missing. Thomas Jefferson, the author of the Declaration, is enshrined in a mall monument fit for a deity. The fact that Jefferson was also a brutal slave owner is something one only learns at his former estate in Monticello. Perhaps, not surprisingly, that fact is not prominently stated. To date, the American's treatments of his own dark past is so ignorantly passive, so intentionally vague, so in denial that it begs the question, do the majority of Americans feel any guilt when it comes to any wrongdoing toward blacks and Native Americans? Every nation has dark spots in its past, and nowhere are those spots darker than in Germany. However, the greatest of a country reflects in how it deals with the past, whether it critically examines it. In this respect, the United States is not the great nation it believes itself to be. I am New Jersey near the Lincoln Tunnel, Avenida de Nueva York, and 46. Hannah, my wife, in about less than an hour, should get off a bus at this intersection. That's why I'm here. It also has neighborhood Wi-Fi, allowing me to do this hangout. My purpose is simple. I do this because it feels good. I was on an airplane, 3 across. Hannah was on the window. I was in the middle, and on the aisle was a young German going to study in San Diego. We left JFK prior to spending 2 weeks at my cousin's house in San Diego, and toward the end of the flight, I had light, very short conversation with this young man, enough to know he was German and why he was going to San Diego. And then the rest of the flight was quiet. And then I opened up at the end with what I was doing with this, and he was very interested. So I'm just a guy who's read something, was struck by the text. So I have gone further and recorded that text in a hangout like this one, only I didn't stop at once. I've done it, 7 times. So just to be able to tell this to this young German, and that it was written by a German, was remarkable. I flipped open my laptop and I gave him a couple of excerpts, and one of them was, every nation has dark spots in its past, and nowhere are those spots darker than in Germany. This young German flinched. He didn't put it into words, and quite honestly, that's why I waited to the end. I didn't really want to talk about this in any length. And I've got some dancers. And so I hope that made the video. That was so cute. So he flinched. This was a nowhere are the dark spots darker than in Germany. Now a German wrote this, and this young German sort of flinches, like he didn't like to hear that, didn't want to accept that it was true. And for that matter, it might not be true. It's certainly arguably true. There are some very dark spots in this world's history, and genocide under the hands of the Nazis, I think in terms of cruelty and victim count, is perhaps higher than any in the world's history. It's still an argument that I wouldn't want to make, that it is the worst, because you have to somehow say that some of these other horrors of genocide are in some ways better. And that's a sickening argument to make. But anyways, this young German didn't like it. He didn't put it into words. I didn't give him the chance. But it just shows that this pride in our nations, this young man in Germany and me with my own nation, and what irritates me to no end is see the people who rally about dick-riding Republican candidates like Ted Cruz is at the beginning of top of my list right now. He's the one that announced his candidacy in a Christian college that is very, very closely associated with a law firm that is fighting for this county clerk in Kentucky to stand by her religious rights to be able to not issue wedding certificates for gay couples. He is also, I've heard him in speeches, this is, Americans' prosperity. They're another one that do this. This is the greatest nation the world has ever seen. Maybe, arguably true. I'm proud of this country. I'm no less proud because I do this. One American looks in the mirror. However, does it sound like the basis for what Markus writes here as so in denial? Wish I could get back to his text. Is so ignorantly passive, so intentionally vague, and so in denial? Does that seem to go hand in hand with, this is the best nation this world has ever seen? This booming rally cry of pride. Let's all get together. We're all Americans, and let's celebrate ourselves. What a message. I am no less proud of my country than any other American. And I can stand here and read this critical review of my country. Now, I'm afraid I'm not going to come back to this, so I'm going to extend this. And from the San Diego Zoo, more than 4,000 years, more than 40,000 years, Aboriginal people have hunted. This was a sign that I took a picture of, and today I transcribed it to text. I'm reading from that text. I haven't changed it. It's not my words. It's the words published. No author is credited, but it's published on a sign near the koala bears. And I've also, in this video, I have a link to this text, to the image containing this text. And that same link will get to some pictures of the koala bears at the San Diego Zoo. San Diego Zoo is famously excellent. And this is relevant. People have hunted, the Aboriginal people have hunted, fished, and foraged along Australian coastlines. They thrived and established music, dance, and art. Then late in the 1700s, British ships arrived. The Aboriginal people suffered severe hardship at the hands of these foreign settlers who tried to assimilate them into Western culture. After World War II, the government slowly began correcting the past mistreatment of the Aboriginal people by granting them fundamental rights, citizenship, voting, land ownership. 2008, Prime Minister Kevin Rudd, I don't know which way he says that. Either way, it doesn't sound great. Apologized for the government wrongdoings. Today, Australia supports the recovery of the Aboriginal way of life and celebrates the culture in exhibitions, film, events, and festivals. So here's Australia dealing with a dark part in its past. A fresh note, one of the Hillary Clinton emails that was disclosed in this email scandal, Clinton.com, that was used for official emails, is probably going to make sure that she's not the next president of the United States, and will further delay the first female president of the United States. Kevin Rudd had written to her and basically had solicited Hillary Clinton for a sympathy call when he got ousted from his prime minister position. During that prime minister position, he had made this apology to the Aboriginal people. So this is Australia dealing with a dark spot in its past. And the United States is not a complete failure in dealing with the dark spots of our past, but certainly with the terrible treatment that Markus highlights here, and many of the events that have caught the attention of the world, that caught the attention of this nation since. We've got more work to do. Dear kind listeners, if you do what I'm doing, you might feel what I'm feeling. This is great. This is me reading the words of Markus Feldenkirchen, highly critical of my country, and my motivation is purely emotional. And I can't explain it. It just feels good. If it feels good, do it. The hippies used to say. Listeners, I invite you to try it. This has been Tom Doody, middle-aged American living in New Jersey near the Lincoln Tunnel. I am in New Jersey near the Lincoln Tunnel right now. If you were to visit my website, you would type Howdy Doody into Google. You'll find the correct spelling of the famous puppet. You then combine Tom Doody in a Google search for my site. Thank you for listening. Have a good day, good evening, or restful night's sleep. Ciao.